Hey guys, my name is Alex and welcome to my channel. Today, I plan on making Kremvh's tooth from Fallout 4. Kremvh's tooth. Okay. The first thing that I want to do is go online and print off a picture. Kind of like this, but hopefully you can get the entire sword in the picture. And once I did that, I went through and took some measurements with a digital caliper for scaling. And I looked up online what size it should be in real life, and it's around 22 inches, I think it was. So I used that ratio with the picture that I printed off, and it did a few measurements, as you can see on the paper, just so that when I transfer it and make it bigger, it's easier for me. Kremvh's tooth is a very unique weapon in the Fallout 4 world. It's the only weapon, only sword with that weird jaggedy edge to it, and that's what I really like about it. Even though it's not a super long sword, it's just a really cool, unique weapon, and I want one for myself. Alrighty, so after you got all your measurements that you want, you're going to want to transfer this to a piece of cardboard. At least that's what I'm going to do before I do any metal tracing. I just found this piece of cardboard in the other room, so we're going to do a little bit of sketching, and then once you got your piece of cardboard, you're going to want to sketch your image of the blade out onto it with the same dimensions that you found on this piece of paper earlier. Once you have it sketched out in Sharpie, get yourself a pair of scissors and cut it out. Now that you have your sword cut out of cardboard, it's a good time to transfer all your measurements from this paper to the scale model. This will ensure that when you go to transfer it to a piece of metal, all your necessary measurements are right in one spot. Alright, once you have all your measurements transferred onto the blade, focus, why will this not focus? Down here maybe? It is now time to transfer to metal. Alright, now that you got your chunk of steel, it's time to transfer your pattern from the cardboard onto your actual metal. So to do that, I'm going to take all the measurements that I've written down and just plot points and just connect them later. So we'll start doing that. Alrighty, now we've got the entire pattern traced on to the sword. Now it's time to go cut it out. Alrighty, so in order to cut our little machete out of the metal, we're going to need a couple tools. I like to keep a cutoff wheel as well as either a flap disc or a grinder. You need clamps to hold down the material as well as safety glasses to make sure you don't get anything in your eye. So now that we got all our pieces assembled, let's get to cut. Alright, now that you got the basic shape of your sword roughed out, it's time to take an angle grinder to it or a flap disc. I'm going to start with an angle grinder just to get all the burrs and the sharp edges out of it, add some detail to it, and then come in with a flap disc at the end to finish it up and make it look clean. Alrighty, after about an hour of grinding, I got this shape right here, which is pretty close to the end product. It's going to need a lot more grinding, but my next step now is to take the grinder and go all along the edges to try to get them sharp. I want the entire outline of the sword pretty sharp before I go to sanding. So let's get to it. Alright, now we got both sides ground out into the basic blade style. As you can see, if it will focus. There we go. I mean, the edge isn't perfect, but that's okay because in the game you find this underwater and it's been there for, I don't know, hundreds of years. So it's gonna be a little rough around the edges, which is perfect for me. So the next step is to cut out these little holes there and there, which are gonna require a jigsaw and a metal blade, which I don't currently have right now, so till tomorrow. And we're back with the metal jigsaw blades. Let's get to work. Alrighty, so we got a couple little chainsaw files here, and I'm just gonna go through, clean up the edges of those holes, and I'll get back to you guys when it's done. I'm not gonna do a Alright, I'm not going to do a time lapse on this because the camera is about to die. So, I'll get back to you guys when it's done. Alrighty, so I'm just done with the filing now. It's been probably about 20-25 minutes. And I get this nice, soft, come on, soft little lip there. No more sharp edges. That way you're not going to catch your hand or anything in there. But now it is time to the flap disc and cleaning up, getting it ready for sharpening. Let's go. Alrighty, so I got the sword clamped down to the table, and we're going to hit it with a flap disc, which is basically a bunch of tiny pieces of sandpaper on a grinder wheel. And this is just to clean it up, shine it up, knock off all the burrs, and then basically getting it ready to sharpen. So I'm gonna hit that really quick and then we'll be right back. Alrighty, so after hitting that with the flap disc, it's looking pretty good. I mean, it's really shiny. Why will you not focus? There we go. Nice and shiny. And ready to get hit with the sharpener. So we're gonna sharpen it up and see how it looks. All right, well, with all the jagged edges, it's pretty hard to get a clean cut, but I mean, not bad. So now time for a heat treat. Alrighty, so what you just saw was me hardening the tip of the blade. You want to get it glowing orange hot and then dunk it into either oil or water. I only had water available, so that's what I used. And when I took the file to it, that was me testing to see if the hardening actually worked. And it did, because it didn't leave any scratches or marks on it. It just moved away the soot. So that part of the blade is hard, which is really the only part I'm going to do for right now. I may off camera do the rest of it. But I really like the cool colors that it made through that heat treat process. So I want to kind of replicate that through the whole blade to make it look pretty well used and battered. So I'm going to get to that right now. Hey there. So I just got done doing a heat treat on the entire blade. I went through and did the entire thing off camera, but it's got a cool, darker, multicolored color to it now. So now that the entire thing is hardened and it's not gonna bend as much, or at all really, I'm gonna go through and do a final sharpening and then it's time for testing. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so after that quick little sharpening, this is what we are left with. And I know it doesn't look, you know, how it really should with all the definitive points and everything, but I don't know, it's good enough for me. So the last part to make it a real actual machete is you need a handle. So that's the next thing that we're gonna do. Alrighty, so the last part of today's build is the handle, which is probably one of the most important parts because I mean, how else are you gonna hold it? In order to make the handle, we're gonna take this piece of wood. I got this from the most highest quality, most reputable place to buy wood. You guessed it, Home Depot. And I'm just gonna take this and lay the sword on there and just trace it out. You should end up with something looking like this, and then it's time to cut that out. Now that you got your two halves, it's time to mark out the pinholes on those, which all you have to do is place your piece, your handle, right back within the lines and mark it from there. It's easiest to use a pen in order to get through the tiny little holes. And if your pen doesn't work, just take a nail and make your mark that way. See, we got one there, one right there, and one right there. You do the same thing to the other side. Normally you would do this on a drill press to get it straight and even, but I don't have a drill press, so here's how I do it. Okay, so now that we've got our 3 pieces with all the holes already drilled through them, it's now time to test fit everything together. For the pins on this handle, I'm just using some screws that I got, or nails that I got at the Home Depot. They look like that. And I'm just gonna pressure fit them all together, and then I'll show you the end product. So I got this right there. Now they just kind of go together. Just kind of, come on. Gotta make sure there's no gaps, that it's absolutely tight before you move on. And you repeat the same process. Come on. Now that you got these dry fit together, and you make sure that there's no gaps in between, you're gonna wanna pull them back apart and then get some 2-part epoxy to put everything back together. Welcome back. It's been a couple days and the resin has cured pretty well. It's all hard. Now it is time to do some sanding and shaping of the handle, and then we're gonna seal it and it'll be almost done. Let's get to it. The tools I'm gonna be using today are gonna be a grinder with a cutoff wheel, a grinder with a flap disc, and a big belt sander back here. And that'll be mostly for the shaping of the wood. The cutoff wheel is gonna be for cutting off the ends of the pins, and this flap disc is gonna be used for the rough in shape. So let's get to it. Roughed in shape with the jigsaw. Alrighty, so after about, I don't know, half hour of sanding, I got this profile kind of roughed in. So now I'm going to take and thin down the handle, because that's kind of just like a block to hold on to. And then once we thin that down and get some nice curves going, it'll be time for the detail work. Alrighty, so now we got it thinned down kind of to where we want it. So now it's time to take care and address this difference in height here. I kind of waited a little too long to address that, but we're going to take care of it now. We're just going to take a jigsaw and cut, make it even right there, and then we're going to start hand sanding. The belt sander that we just used was 80 grit sandpaper. For hand sanding, we're just going to use a 100 grit sanding disc. Then for the finishing touches, we're going to use this really thin sanding disc, and that is a 400 grit. Where is it? Right there. This will give it a super soft finish and it'll look really clean when we're done. So let's get to it. We're now done with the 100 grit sand. This has taken away the majority of the rough marks from the belt sander, But we're gonna use the 400 and start getting that really soft finish that we're looking for. And there you have it. Kremvh's tooth completed. Pretty clean cut. Thank you guys for watching, and please leave any ideas for future projects in the comments below.